Welcome, everybody, to Confessions of a Binge Eater. And truly, this is one of those shows where there's a confession. Stay tuned. Welcome, everybody, to Confessions of a Binge Eater. I am so glad you're here. And this podcast is aptly named because once in a while, I have something I must confess. And you're my first people to confess it to. Why? Because I know you get it. All right. So if you're looking for weight loss advice or emotional eating advice, binge eating, sugar addiction advice from somebody who isn't an emotional eater or a binge eater or who has never been fat, yeah, that's not going to work. So thanks for coming here. I've been all of the above. It's a miserable experience. That's why I'm so passionate about what I do with Heal Your Hunger, which is help you overcome your struggles with food and weight. But I start with my own story so that you know I know, and together we can heal. So last night, I had a run-in with chocolate chips. Yes, I did. So I recently created a holiday recipe guide, and it's super yummy. It's 20 fabulous recipes. And I do make these recipes, not all of them, but several of them. And one of them requires chocolate chips, and it's a sugar-free holiday recipe guide. And so it requires sugar-free chocolate chips, which, if you don't know, Lily's Chocolate makes sugar-free chocolate chips. And in this brand, they use erythritol and stevia typically. And so they're pretty awesome. Like, thank you, Lily's, for creating something that doesn't have sugar in it. However, that doesn't mean they're totally safe if you are an emotional eater. And guess what happened to me? So I bought these chocolate chips because I planned on making one of the recipes. It's the holidays. I'm in a bit of entertaining baking mode. I'm not a baker. You know, when I stopped emotional eating, frankly, I lost my interest in baking because if I can't just eat my way through the things I'm making, what's the point? Plus, I didn't want the temptation. So baking came off the table. It's not something I've done much at all over the years. But I had a party. My partner made an apple pie, which had plenty of sugar in it. Not too much, but sugar. You know, it was not sugar-free. And so I'm just kind of in this festive mood. So I bought some baked goods. Whole Foods was having a sale on baked goods to make it easier, like 30% off several different kinds of baked goods. So I'm buying almond flour and coconut flour and extra stevia. And I buy these Lily's chocolate chips. And, well, suffice to say that I don't think having those chocolate chips in my house is a good idea. Yeah, so they were I used some of them. I melted them for these sugar-free macaroons that I made from my holiday recipe guide. But then they were wrapped up, the rest of them, the bag, in my cupboard. And I knew they were there. And last night, we made dinner. My partner left. He plays Frisbee on the beach at night, oftentimes on Wednesdays. So he leaves, and I'm like, I don't think I ate quite enough. So I'm like, I need just a little something. And my clients who are listening know this is a big problem. Like, this is a rabbit hole waiting to happen. So I pull out those chocolate chips, and I eat a handful. And which wasn't a lot. I mean, it wasn't a lot. Okay. But then I had another one, and I was sitting there and I was finishing a TV show. And I thought, I'm eating chocolate chips out of the bag from my hand in front of the TV. And I thought to myself, danger, danger, Will Rogers. This is not going to end well unless I stop right now. And I got honest, I can't handle chocolate chips. Chocolate chips in my very dark past were a major trigger for me. I used to bake Toll House cookies with my mother. Okay, it goes way, way back. My mom she was a good mom, and she made Toll House cookies with chocolate chips in them. Nestle's chocolate chips, a yellow bag. I have a feeling you know what I'm talking about. So basically, it was a staple in our house. I loved chocolate chip cookies. I loved chocolate chip cookie dough. And when I was hurting and needing a fix, I would go to the pantry and grab one of those bags of chocolate chips. I would take the bag and I would start pouring the bag of chocolate chips into my hand, pouring the chocolate chips from the bag into my hand. And before you knew it, I had eaten, I don't know, however many calories, 500, 800, 1,000 calories worth of chocolate chips. And anything snacky is dangerous for an emotional eater. And of course, I know better. I know better. So I'm looking down at my hand. It's got a little bit of melted chocolate in it. And I thought, Tricia, you're going to be in trouble if you don't stop. But I did not wrap up the bag of chocolate chips and put it back in the pantry. I threw them out. I threw the bag of chocolate chips out. Because I just know myself. I know myself. And not only did I throw them out, but I pushed them down into the garbage. And if you've ever seen my TEDx talk where I talk about garbage eating, namely fishing food out of the garbage, I thought I better not go into this garbage and retrieve these, because that would be like so bad for me as the founder of Heal Your Hunger and a TEDx talk about garbage eating with close to 3 million views. Like, that would be really bad. So thankfully, thank you, God, I did not retrieve those chocolate chips. And when my partner got home from the beach later that night, I told him what had happened. And he's like, did you throw them out? I said, yes, I did. He's like, you didn't go get them, did you? And I said, no, I didn't. But it helped me to tell him what I'd done, because he knows. He knows I'm an emotional eater. He knows I seem normal around food, but that doesn't mean I am normal around food. And, on almost every day of the week, I am, but I'm not cured. And my clients hear this. I'm not cured. To me, once you're an emotional eater or once you've had disordered eating, there are vestiges of it, and you can return to it. And I know you know what I mean. So I never consider myself cured. I've had too many slips down the rabbit hole to know that there's no such thing as being cured. And if that's bad news to you, I'm sorry. But it helps me stay ever vigilant, meaning when I'm sitting there on the couch with chocolate chips in my hand, it helps me to know, oh, Tricia, you can indeed slip and fall down that rabbit hole again if you don't take some drastic action, which means throwing those chocolate chips out and not buying them again. You guys, chocolate chips are not safe for me. I don't care if they're sweetened with stevia. Chocolate chips, snacky, yummy chocolate in the form of chocolate chips, they're just not safe. And I have to know my limitations. I have to know this about myself. And how do I know this about myself? Through bitter experience, absolutely bitter experience. So what are unsafe foods for you? Okay, what are the things that you tell yourself, oh, I'm just going to have just one, or I'm going to have just a handful? What are those foods that you never have just a handful of? That it opens up this terrible chasm of binge eating and going overboard and feeling sick and then feeling so angry at yourself. What are those unsafe foods? You got to know what they are, because if you don't, you're going to be beating your head against the wall trying to be normal around those foods. You guys, I'm not normal. I'm not normal. I'm not trying to be normal. And the funny thing is, the more I accept I'm not normal, the more normal I seem. Like, most people would never know, looking at me and hanging out with me, that I have had disordered eating, that I am an out of control, dyed-in-the-wool emotional eater. And I am. And I claim the moniker, even though most days I'm super normal around food. I've never felt so free around food. But I have to watch it. I have to know myself, and I have to see the signs and sidestep the trap of self-sabotage by taking pretty drastic action, like throwing a food out if it's not working for me. I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, maybe I can do it. I'll put them in the cupboard. It'll be fine. No, it's not fine. 2 little handfuls of chocolate chips, and I know where this is heading. So I hope this is helping you. I hope you know it's okay to claim that some foods are just unsafe. You don't have to fight them. You don't have to fight them and try to be normal around them. It's hard when you're an emotional eater, and food addicted. It's hard because you can't just stop doing the behavior, right? You can't stop eating. You have to eat, right? You have to have 3 meals, and they have to be sufficient meals. And, one of the mistakes I made was I didn't eat enough for dinner. So we have to know ourselves. We have to know what's safe and what's unsafe. And that requires honesty, self-honesty. And the only reason I can get honest with myself is because I've been burned too many times, right? I've gotten beaten and bloodied by chocolate chips. Chocolate chips have me nailed. And it's okay to admit that. So if there are some foods in your cupboard that you fight with, that you know are there, you're always conscious of them. If that's the case, get rid of them, clear them from your consciousness, because they're sucking energy. They're sucking energy. And if you think about them all the time, that's an obsession. That's an obsession, and clearly an indication that you're probably not in control. And so when we can't just put the plug in the jug and stop our addiction, meaning we have to eat every day, it's really important that we get super honest about what's manageable and what's not, what makes us feel out of control. Even if we're controlling it, if you're obsessed with it, you're not in control. So what are those foods? Get honest about it, get rid of them, and surrender. Just surrender. We have a condition, and not everything's going to work for us food-wise. No matter how free you are, 30-something years into this deal, I am freer than I've ever been. I'm so grateful. I've been in a thin body for a long time, but I'm not out of the woods yet. I'm not cured. And I feel free when I admit that. I feel free. I'm recognizing and acknowledging my limitations and my boundaries. It's walking a fine line. So this is the line I had to draw, and I hope this is helpful to you. Again, Confessions of a Binge Eater. I love you so much. I hope you take really good care of yourself, and I'll see you on the next show. If you're ready to get off the dieting roller coaster ride and finally make peace with food and with your body, talk to a Heal Your Hunger mentor about what steps you need to take based on your own history with food and weight. Go to healyourhunger.com and register for an emotional eating breakthrough session and see how fast you can experience real change. It's a complimentary evaluation, but there are limited spots available. So go to healyourhunger.com and register to speak with a mentor today.